What's up, you freaky folks? My name is Nick, and welcome to my channel, where I cover all things horror, whatever you're watching. I'm making videos about. And every week I like to take a look at my favorite streaming service, Shudder, to find a solid horror movie recommendation for you guys. But they have done such a good job of collecting as many Christmas-themed horror films as they can, so I thought I would break them all down. I've done this a couple of times where I rank the different collections on Shudder, and you guys seem to enjoy my Halloween video, so I thought I would do the same thing for Christmas. But I have to be honest, I am a total Grinch. I don't care about Christmas. I don't even like Christmas. It would be my least favorite holiday if Thanksgiving and Easter weren't so pointless. I don't even think I really celebrate Christmas, to be honest. Unless getting wine drunk on Christmas Eve while watching Black Christmas '06 counts, then yes, I guess I technically celebrate. So I'm sure my ranking is going to be much different than yours, so I encourage everyone to leave your own rankings in the comments and let me know what your favorite holiday horror films are. But we've got 15 freaky festive flicks to get into, so let's get started. Number 15 is Red Christmas. This Australian slasher is about a family who gathers for Christmas when a mysterious stranger appears and begins hunting them down one by one. Now this sounds like it could be interesting, except it has such a poorly executed agenda that it just brings down the entire viewing experience. It's honestly like the polar opposite of Black Christmas 2019, and not in a good way. Even if you align with the messaging of this movie for some reason, it is so boring and dull, and like nothing happens in it, and it's the type of movie that just ends. Like, okay, Red Christmas, fuck you too.
This year I thought before we opened presents, it would be nice if we went around and said what we're grateful for.
Perhaps Peter could lead us in a prayer?
This isn't a goddamn church.
And here I thought this would be so easy.
Number 14 is Christmas Presents. This Shudder original is a British horror comedy about a group of friends gathering at a house in the countryside for a Friendsmas, and then creepy horror movie things start happening. This was such a nothing movie that it has basically already slipped from my mind. It isn't funny or scary. The only thing I even really remember about it is how openly transphobic it is, and that pissed me off. But with that personal gripe aside, the movie is just so uninteresting, and it seems like it has no idea what it wants to be. Christmas Presents has absolutely no presents. Trust me, even you will forget about this movie by the end of this video.
You made it!
It's cozy.
Number 13 is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. This 80s slasher sequel follows the events of Silent Night, Deadly Night as Ricky takes over for his brother Billy as the Santa-dressed serial killer. This is mostly made up of footage from the original movie. Hell, this is barely a movie all on its own. I thought this was easily gonna wind up in last place until I watched those other lumps of coal, but while this cult sequel is a sloppy mess, it's entertaining in that bad movie way you know I love. And while it doesn't have a whole ton to offer, there's definitely one reason to check it out.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
Number 12 is Body. This mumblecore thriller is about three young women on Christmas break who head out for a night of fun. They sneak into a mansion believed to be owned by relatives, but things quickly spiral out of control. When a random stranger winds up dead in the house, the three women must figure out how to handle the situation. If you're unfamiliar with mumblecore films, I generally consider them to be low aiming, simply because they're often made by filmmakers trying to make something work with a low budget and limited resources. And I totally respect that, because I would totally do the same thing if I had the opportunity. I think we'd all make our own movies if we could, but I don't find them often amounting to much. It's usually a message as a movie as opposed to a movie exploring a full story, but Body does have plenty of potential. In fact, I don't even think it's really that bad. There are just plenty of other better Christmas frights to be had on Shudder. Number 11 is A Christmas Horror Story. This anthology takes place in the small town of Bailey Downs, where the Ginger Snaps movies take place. William Shatner plays a radio host who tells several terrifying festive tales. Students experience terror while filming a documentary project, Santa defends himself against evil elves, and an unfortunate family is forced to face Krampus. The stories are interwoven throughout the runtime, which I think is my biggest problem with the movie. I would have preferred watching each short play one after another. Because of the way we hop around, I don't really feel like any of the stories really build to a satisfying conclusion. But I feel like that must just be my personal viewing experience. If you happen to like this, let me know what you think. I remember watching this before and I found it enjoyable, but I rewatched it for this video and it just really didn't do anything for me. So if you happen to be disappointed to see this ranked so low, I'm sorry. You're probably also not going to like this next one. Number 10 is Better Watch Out. This dark comedy is about a teenage girl babysitting a pair of tweens when they believe a home invader is targeting them. From there, it all goes off the rails in a way that doesn't work for me at all. So I just recommended this in my most recent What to Watch video for TUBI, and I kept things pretty spoiler-free there, but I thought I'd take the opportunity to get into it in this video. So if you haven't already watched Better Watch Out, skip to the timestamp, that way you avoid spoilers, because I'm about to spoil it, like, right the fuck now. Basically, my entire problem with this movie is the villain and the way that it tries to balance horror and comedy. I totally see the tone that the director is going for, but I simply cannot get into this little shit with his voice breaking constantly, being a scary murderer. The movie villainizes him while also trying to make us feel like gleefully happy with the madness of the violence taking place on screen, and it seems to create, for me personally, this friction where I feel like there should be a flow. Overall, I like what this movie has to say, but the way that it says it just doesn't really work for me. And I know that I'm kind of the odd one out. I know a lot of people love this movie. I feel like this is a club that I just don't get to be a part of, and that's just too bad. So feel free to let me know what you think of Better Watch Out in the comments.
Now don't stay up and watch scary movies, okay? It'll give you nightmares again.
So what do you want to do?
Number 9 is Bloodbeat. Flipping the script, we now have a movie that most people don't care for, but I definitely love. Bloodbeat is an early 80s horror about a woman who goes to spend Christmas with her boyfriend's family in Wisconsin. And just because this one needs to be spoiled, the spirit of a damn samurai begins possessing people to commit gruesome murders. Yes, it's as batshit nutso as it sounds. If you're new here, I get a kick out of bad movies. As long as I'm entertained, I'm into it. And Bloodbeat is such an underrated bad Christmas movie. I feel like the poster alone gives you an idea of what you're in for, so proceed with caution.
A ghost, a devil, a poltergeist.
Number 8 is Nosferatu. Switching things up, we have a Christmas-themed horror show. Based on the novel by Joe Hill, it's about a group of people who have special abilities, like the trailer park version of the X-Men. One of them is Vic McQueen, who is this future hobo of a young woman who can travel through different dimensions. This leads her to the villainous Charlie Manx, who lures children to his evil domain of Christmasland, where he feeds on their souls to remain immortal. Obviously, Christmasland is what brings us here. This is an interesting concept, but I have to say that this show is incredibly disappointing to me. I remember watching season 1 last year and really didn't enjoy it, but I thought, you know what? I'll watch season 2. I'll give it a shot. I'll see if things get better. And nope, still a waste of time. It doesn't really get horror-y enough to fully recommend, and I had the same problem with both seasons, in that I felt like they only needed half of the episodes they were given to tell the stories that they were telling, yet there still seemed to be a ton of information left on the table. I just didn't really feel like this was executed very well, and it felt like we spent so much time with our main character being super puffy-eyed because she was either crying, she just cried, or she was about to cry. Now, I like Zachary Quino and Ashley Cummings, but the show never materializes into something compelling. It does have its aesthetic value, but that's kind of it. Honestly, Christmasland isn't even that interesting. We really don't even get to Christmasland, like for real, until season 2. There's a bunch more Christmasland in season 2, but I still really didn't think it was worth it. But I see that it has a pretty solid IMDb score, so Nosferatu fans, wherever you're hiding, feel free to let me know what you think of the show.
Vic.
Number 7 is Shiton. Sheaton? I don't really know. This one is about a group of people who go clubbing on Christmas Eve and meet a woman who invites them back to her place. There they meet a strange shepherd played by Vincent Cassell. A series of bizarre interactions play out over the course of this excursion that leads to a freaky conclusion. I remember seeing the poster art for this one and it reminded me of Hannibal and totally creeped me out and knew I had to watch it. And I was expecting something really extreme and graphic graphic, like Frontiers. I was like, this is gonna be like the French Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's totally different. It's a very different kind of deranged. It's all about social norms and dealing with very uncomfortable situations. So I know it's not going to be for everyone, and sure, it isn't the best or the most Christmassy when you really think about it, but it is so bizarre. Like, that is the word that I think of to describe this movie. It is bizarre. There aren't very many movies like it. So if you're looking for something interesting and different, check out Satan, however it's whatever it is.
C'est quoi ce truc de ouf là-haut là?
Number 6 is Black Lake, and a lot of you are going to disagree with me on this one, but I really enjoyed this Swedish TV show. A group of friends head to an abandoned lodge at Black Lake, the site of a horrific tragedy. While Johan is hoping to buy the lodge, his girlfriend Hannah believes there are supernatural forces at work with a dark plan for them. I can't really get into what's happening in this show without getting into what's happening in this show, so let me just say that if you do decide to give it a watch, stick it out until about episode 4, because that's when things start to become more clear. It isn't the slasher that I wish it turned into, but I really enjoyed hanging out with these characters in this beautiful, isolated setting. I just love all things Scandinavian. I watched this first season 1 episode at a time and soaked it up. I did recommend it on Instagram, and I kind of have to retract that because after finishing it, the ending is very unsatisfying, and I know a lot of people won't like it. It does not answer all of its questions, nor does it explore its themes and ideas as thoroughly as it should have, but I just had a damn good time hanging out in this little world. It was fun.
Hörrni, skulle jag vilja bara säga vad kul att alla följer med. Och även nya...
Number 5 is All the Creatures Were Stirring. This anthology horror is set in LA, where all low-budget movies exist. There are 5 stories in a wraparound told, all centered on Christmas. There's a creepy death van, an office party from hell, and worst of all, performance art. I almost did a review for this one a few weeks back, but missed it because I suck. And while this is a pretty basic indie horror film, I have it ranked so high because I enjoyed this on second viewing. While not all of the stories work, some of them are quite lame, and the wraparound isn't the best, this isn't the typical Christmas horror movie. For one, it's set in Southern California, so we don't get the snowy exterior that we're used to seeing in these movies, which I think is perfectly fine because not everyone lives at the North Pole. And secondly, it isn't very family-oriented, which I really appreciate because a lot of the stories focus on orphans and single people who don't really have anywhere to go on Christmas, which perfectly aligns with the way I see the holiday. It might not be the Tales of Halloween of Christmas horror movies, but it's close enough for me.
Someone will open a gift, and the next person can steal someone else's already opened gift. This is gonna be so much fun!
Number 4 is Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale. And I have to say, this top 4 we have here is like a god tier Christmas horror. I love it all, and this is why I love Shudder. It's all about the quality. This Finnish family adventure fantasy is about an archaeological dig that unearths a giant Santa Claus. When local children begin disappearing, a family sets out to trap Santa Claus and sell him back to the corporation that discovered him. This is such a charming and sweet little movie. It is genuinely heartwarming while also having its horror elements. And by the end, it also has a bunch of old man dong. Just a forewarning in case you are gonna watch this with your family. But I'm sure most of you have already seen this, and while it is quite close to perfect, there are 3 other movies I happen to love even more.
Seismisiä tutkimuksia, paskanmari. Täällä on kaivettu jotain. Mitä helvettiä täältä nousee?
Number 3 is Christmas Evil. This psychological character study is about a man named Harry who is obsessed with Christmas. Traumatized as a child after learning Santa Claus isn't real, Harry yearns to become Santa himself. One year he snaps and does just that. After gaining a few pounds and gluing a white beard to his face, Harry goes on a rampage, rewarding the nice while punishing the naughty. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's the first Killer Santa movie, but I remember when I watched it for the first time, I was expecting an 80s slasher and I barely finished it, but it stuck with me and I had to revisit it as an adult. I love a character study that explores a dark character and is willing him to go there, and this movie does just that. It's like the original Joker, but with Santa Claus. If you haven't already seen it, know what you're getting into, but I encourage everyone to give this a watch. Just expect more of a drama about mental health peppered with moments of holiday horror.
And this Christmas, you better believe in Santa, or he'll slay you. Christmas Evil, the night he dropped in.
Number 2 is Deadly Games, or Dial Code Santa Claus, or one of its many titles. This French horror thriller is about a little rich kid left home with his grandfather on Christmas Eve when a man dressed as Santa breaks in. But this kid has all the gadgets and gizmos and goes full mini Rambo, taking on Mr. Santa all by himself. There's a little bit more to the story that does provide some nuance that makes this premise make sense, but who even cares? Because in this movie, you've got a killer Santa chasing down some kid who happens to be an even bigger badass than Kevin McAllister in this beautiful mansion. It is a blast, and this came out like a year before Home Alone, and it happens to be the Home Alone horror movie that I never knew I needed. And this is why I love Shudder, because this movie was basically impossible to find until like a year ago when it popped up on Shudder. This movie didn't even exist to me until then. I didn't even know about it. If Deadly Games, or whatever you call it, managed to slip under your radar, don't miss it. Number 1 is Black Christmas. Yes, you know it's true. Black Christmas is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, so you know it's gonna be at the top of any Christmas horror movie list. In this original slasher from 1974, a group of sorority sisters are harassed by menacing phone calls. Unfortunately for them, a murderer has already snuck into their home and begins targeting them one by one. I already ranted and raved about how much I love this movie in my most recent TUBI video, and this video is already long enough, so I'll wrap it up, but I love Black Christmas, and I think it totally holds up. 70s vibes be damned. If you pay attention to the story and characters and ignore the aesthetics, Black Christmas feels like a movie that would still be made today. It's funny, it's scary, it's festive, and it's entertaining as hell. I love Black Christmas. Once again, it is my everything, so if you haven't seen it, don't knock it till you tried it. That is my ranking of Shudder's Unhappy Holidays collection. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, especially if you made it to the end. You get that extra special thank you. Let me know what your favorites are in the comments and give me your own ranking if you would like. If you liked this video or you didn't like this video, either way, hit one of those damn buttons. That's what they're there for. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my channel if you're interested, and if you do, hit that bell and turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss any creepy content. That's it for this video. Happy holidays, folks. I won't stop you from watching another.